Hello, everybody. It is Friday evening, and we are here for another edition of Speed Dial. And I've been trying to do these on a more regular basis, and I appreciate you guys showing up. I see Artco Drone Solutions in the house. I see Chris Hope. I see Joe Blaylock, Matt Cundiff, uh, Michael Wright, Texas Architecture Drone Guy, Gene Fox Green. I don't know if Green is his last name or if that is part of the title. Green Mountain. Oh, Green Mountain Droning. Of course. Sorry. Johnny D. Jody with Drone Shots. Sunrise Water Media. Anyway, thank you guys. Matt Cundiff. Thank you guys for hopping in. I have a pretty exciting show tonight, and if you have ever wanted to do anything with flight automation, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And specifically, flight automation that is designed for um, DJI drones and is actually pretty easy to use. Now, there are some myths about flight automation that it's challenging or difficult or whatever, but the guy who's coming on tonight is going to explain to us how it is not that hard to do, and that with it, you can do really cool stuff with mapping. You can do really cool stuff with photography and video and get like the perfect shot every time. You can go in and pre-visualize flights. As a matter of fact, the CEO of this company, Dronelink, and I don't know if you guys can see the logo here. He spoke at Spin Up 2 years ago when it was at the Boy Scout headquarters here in Austin. His name is Jim McAndrew. He built Autoflight Logic, which was a big thing back in the day for DJI drones before a lot of people were developing software for them. And now he has founded Dronelink. And one of the folks that works with him, his name is Jacob Rachniowski, and he is joining us now. So let me go ahead and bring Jacob in. And boom, there he is, live from Moab, Utah. Jacob, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here, and I know we have a history of hanging out in Austin, Texas. That's where Dronelink's based out of. But doing great here in Moab. I'm here doing some mountain biking and creating some drone footage for Dronelink. So
It's great. It's great when you can go somewhere super cool and have a lot of fun, and then also get some work done, some legit work as well, right? Because I mean, that's something that DroneLink I know has been ramping up recently is all the tutorials, the how-tos, and the demos of what your software does. How are you liking
yeah.
Moab so far? How long have you been there?
Oh, I've been here for like just over a week.
Nice.
And here actually calling out of my camper and here just parked doing some mountain biking. I love it. I love it here. It's a good time of year to be in the desert before it gets too hot.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Uh,
and and it's fair weather for flying drones, so
yeah,
can't
that's
can't
awesome.
can't go wrong with that combo.
And you said you had done some follow and tracking drone shots earlier today.
Yes. It was actually last night, sunset. Was trying to get some good lighting to do some follow mode. Testing the Mavic Air 2, um, doing follow mode on a mountain bike on some trails using GPS based follow, not active track. So
Okay.
we could talk definitely some more about that. But yeah, did some footage. I'll try to integrate that into some content for the website and trying to explain people what some of the modes that we have are and what they can do.
Well, before we get into Drone Link too much, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, how did you get into flying drones? I mean, I know just for a little bit of background history, if any of you came to any of the drone meetups in Austin, Jacob was a big part of those for a long time. He was helping host them over at the 360 Bridge when you guys were based out of there. And even before that, a couple of times at my office at Sparksite, we had meetups there. So, but before that, how did you get into doing drones and kind of how did you end up where you are?
Yeah, well, I'd love to share that. Yeah, so basically got into drones really. I've always, as a kid growing up, was doing cinematography. So I was always into action sports like mountain biking and skiing, and I grew up in Ottawa, Canada. And I've always just filmed stuff and had some videography sort of desire in my background. I had, just done videos. I did like a kiteboarding instructional DVD in Cabarete, Dominican Republic, and had a lone little business as a kid in high school, converting people's home videos into DVDs because they're all on tapes, and uh, was basically involved in video. And then uh, drones came out, and DJI, when I was involved, DJI hadn't released the Phantom series yet. Um, and I was trying to build a business in a space that is interesting, and cinematography drew me towards um, just towards drones. And then my background is I studied mechanical engineering, so it was sort of this good combination where in earlier days we were soldering and building our own drones, and trying to stabilize big cameras on like X8s and get good footage that's good enough to sell. And so that's sort of where the journey began. I connected with my co-founder of a business I started, Cloud9 Drones, back in I don't know, it was 9 years ago or something. We were just we connected kiteboarding. My other co-founder, Taylor, he brought out a drone and filmed us kiteboarding. I edited the footage, and we're both hungry to start a business and quit our other jobs. So that's how we got into it. And from that, we grew the business Cloud9 Drones, doing cinematography. We did some documentaries, movies. Real estate, of course, was in a market that was willing to pay us at that point. And then we were doing more inspections. We were trying to fly like transmitters for cell tower RF mapping around cell towers, and it was a funny journey doing all sorts of, just trying to figure out how to be a business in the drone space. And we wrote our own 333 exemption, which was a bummer. And then that sort of progressed to us getting more involved in like construction, mapping, uh, progress photos, cell tower 3D reconstruction, and the whole reality modeling space. Um, and then we started, we crossed paths with Jim. We were trying to scale operations because we started, the Austin drone pilot meetup was sort of a recruitment tool. We were trying to find pilots that were good enough to sort of jump on. And I remember we ran, I think, a competition in Austin. It was like a mini whoop race, with some LED hoops that we put up in a warehouse. And
Was
um,
that was that
we
at Omega Broadcast?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
was at that. I was at that. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I kind of hacked that. I got to the semifinals or something. I don't know if you remember this, but I had been out of town. I flew back. I drove straight there, and it was in that back room at Omega, right?
Yep.
And because there's a guy at Omega that's really into drones. I forget his name, an older guy. But anyway,
I think
uh,
his name was Ross. I have to.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I maybe don't remember.
I met him at a few of the meetups, but just have to tell this story real quick. I hacked this because what I did was, rather than, because it was kind of a square course that I think they had set up. It was like out and then left, and it was kind of just a big rectangle. Instead of
Yeah.
trying to fly, because it was line of sight, right? It wasn't FPV. I think it was line of sight. And instead of trying to fly and turn, I just flew, and then just I didn't ever rotate my yaw. So I just flew up, went through it, went right, came backwards, and that way my orientation never changed, and so it was much easier. Yeah, I remember
Oh,
going.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and I
I
ended up.
didn't
I
know
ended
you.
up
I didn't know you did that, but that would have been way easier to fly. We were flying indoors, and I don't think we at that point could afford buying enough little tiny whoops with FPV goggles and whatever. So
yeah,
we
yeah.
just didn't do an FPV version. But that's
No, that
so
was
funny.
I remember that really well. I remember thinking that, wow, because I had done a lot of line of sight flying. But anyway, you had done Cloud9 drones with Taylor, and kind of getting these community events going, et cetera. And then you said you met Jim. Jim had created Autoflight Logic. And for everyone who doesn't know, at one point DJI North America was actually based in here in Austin, and then 3DR had an office here in Austin, and then
Hmm.
Hanger had an office here in Austin. And it seemed like a lot of the same people who worked for DJI North America, and then now, of course, they're not here anymore. But a lot of them went to 3DR, and then a lot of them went to Hanger, right?
Yeah, well, so yeah, I could share that. Yeah, so when we were meeting with Jim, and we were trying to create repeatable missions to fly, because we were doing a lot of real estate, and we were onboarding people that, we didn't want to drive a few hours to go shoot stuff. So we just try to train others. And that sort of connection with Jim was like, all right, how do we scale missions, send people, missions to fly? And at that point, we started talking about combining, our businesses. And then we got, more people involved. And part of that was the 3D robotics team that was based out of Austin that included Colin Gwynn and a number of other folks that then, jumped from there to DJI. And then that was sort of a big part of the DJI North America group was, the marketing group was sort of more based out of Austin. And so that combination of the 3D, the DJI North America group that were more sort of marketing focused, Autoflight Logic, Cloud9 drones, and another sort of group of people that were, from the investment community, sort of combined forces, and we created Hangar. And so then we started, trying to scale that, and Hangar was focused on this full end-to-end stack, trying to, focus on, from the 360 photos, real estate, construction, and a number of other markets. And then that was where sort of a big group of us were working. And then different people started splitting off over time, and then it got acquired by AirMap. And then a lot of us split off after that, just starting to be too big of an organization. And myself, Taylor, Jim are now in Dronelink.
Yeah.
Jim jumped ship a while back, in the Hangar days, and rebuilt sort of a bunch of things based off lessons he's learned in the space to create, Dronelink. And we wanted to sort of be on a smaller team, so we also jumped in with Jim and are helping him, build the business out more and more, and more, educate more people about what that flight automation component is, as opposed to the big picture that Hangar and AirMap had been previously trying to do, like the full end-to-end from requesting a mission to having someone plan it or planning it yourself to flying it in the field to collecting the data, processing it, and delivering it on the web. So instead of doing all that, we narrowed the scope, in Dronelink down to just the flight automation bit. And that's sort of the main focus area of that business.
Yeah,
But it's been a crazy history.
you guys were and still are superstars of early drone community. As far as pioneers who were starting out doing things, and very well known. It is interesting the connection that Austin has to a lot of these drone things.
Yeah.
I want to say a quick thank you to Brad for the $5 super chat, and he said you were a fantastic guest. So thank you, Brad. Whether he is or not, you said it, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Jacob, so tell us briefly what Dronelink does. And I think some people are familiar with like Litchi and some other programs that allow you to do things outside of the normal DJI apps. But what is Dronelink specifically?
Yeah, so it's a flight automation app. It's got the app, iOS and Android that is the flight controller that flies the drone autonomously, and then you have the web app for mission planning. And so it's all focused on automating flight, different complexities of flight. From the simplest example of like a 360 photo mission to taking cardinal photos to cinematic video clips to mapping, facade scans, and then a lot of the more focused side of it is reality modeling and sort of more advanced scanning. And so it's all focused on flight automation, and it breaks down into different levels of complexity. The simplest being just running a mode with just the mobile app. You don't need the web app. You could then create very elaborate missions on the web and run them with the mobile app. And then the most advanced state and use of Dronelink is where you want to start customizing like mission generators or even using the SDK. And so Jim's built Dronelink so that people could integrate these flight automation tools into their own apps. And some of the big names in the world are integrating Dronelink within their application, so they could focus on the other things and sort of let Dronelink handle that hardware adaptive layer and flight mission planning and control.
And SDK is software development kit, right? So it
Yeah.
allows
so people
two different softwares to talk to each other.
Yeah, so instead of someone building their own, say app that has to interface with DJI's SDK and make all those calls, instead they could integrate with Dronelink, and we're this intermediate layer that allows more functionality, but then we're adding support for other drones. So there's like hardware agnostic um, layer exists that lets the same mission plan be run by, say, a DJI drone or a Parrot drone or the Evo Altel Evo. But we're still adding support for those and working with those, hardware manufacturers to add more drone support. Right now, the big focus is DJI, and we're adding, or working currently on the Parrot Anafi, and trying to get the Anafi 2 whenever it's out with the SDK for us to use.
So taking that down to a very, very simple, the level at which I think we should start, because a lot of those things you were talking about, like complex modeling and stuff, I think there are people in this audience that might be interested in that. But really, if you want to get just a beautiful shot of something, as far as cinematography goes, or video or a photo, how would you use Dronelink to do that? Like, what's the advantage of doing that versus just putting the sticks up and trying to do it yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start, right? I don't think that other side of the drone link equation like makes sense to talk about. I think focusing, yeah, on the usability and why even automation matters. So automation, I think a lot of people out there aren't actually good at flying on the sticks manually and actually sequencing very cinematic shots. So I know that's a big use case for automation, is just you could prep a mission in advance. You could preview it in a online 3D previewer on Google Earth, and then tweak, all the gimbal settings, camera settings, and then hit play and have that shot repeat, and tweak it from there to get sort of a perfect shot. And you don't have to be good at flying your drone other than basics of taking control and landing it. So you don't have to practice. I remember, shooting real estate. We initially it take us a long time to get pilots up to the state where they were creating not jerky kind of
Yeah,
video
yeah.
footage
You know,
of real
people,
estate. Yeah.
you'll see a shot and it looks really pretty, and then all of a sudden there's just this
Yeah,
random
yeah.
yaw in it or something.
And you
So,
could always edit that stuff out, but but if you're trying to do very elaborate shots, then just programming them in and having the drone do it for you is a super good use case. And I think that's a great starting point. And I could also talk about sort of modes and what those could do. But I think for flight automation, it's really just sort of expanding your horizons, moving from manual flight, and even the quick shots that DJI provides, to expanding that capability to waypoint missions and more complex, dynamic movements. And that's only in the context of videography. There's obviously progress photos. So you just want to take the same photo of the same place over time. You don't have to, fly to that location manually and hit,
yeah, yeah.
take
Well,
the
let's
photo. You could just sort of program it in and fly that mission over and over again
I have a
for
question for
years.
you on that, because I have some opportunities to do. There's some construction being done to a hospital they're adding on, and I might get a chance to do the progress photos on those. And I thought
Okay,
of
awesome.
Dronelink as the perfect application for that. But what if, I mean, let's say this is a 2-year process, and let's say the drone I'm using, let's say I'm using a Mavic Pro 2 now, and then a year and a half into it, I don't have the Mavic Pro 2 anymore. As you said, hardware agnostic. I can still run the mission on a different drone, right? I mean, as long as I can get the
Yep.
same camera settings, it's going to look pretty much the same.
Yeah, like beyond, your field of view of that drone, a camera. A good example is like you could, yeah, just say you're running and you're running the mission with your Phantom 4 Pro and a bird flies into it, and and you still want to get the job done. You have, you're a good pilot. You have your Mavic 2 Pro in your bag, because one drone's none in these sort of operations. And
Yeah, yeah,
you
very
could
true.
as long as you were connected to the internet, the mission sort of real time got saved where you last left off. You could plug the new drone in, hit play, it'll go resume at the exact last location that the last drone finished at, and it'll go from there. Similarly, your iOS device runs out of battery. you could plug in your Android device and resume the mission from where it left off. So those are some cool benefits, right? Or if the drone changes or whatever, you'd still be able to run that mission given the field of view would somewhat change your data from before and after.
Yeah, I mean it's all about that consistency, and so what is the advantage of Dronelink over, say, just doing waypoints in DJI Go 4 or Fly or something like that?
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with, I think the biggest advantage is really the hardware support. So DJI, like the Mavic Air 2, you can't use DJI Go and any capabilities within DJI Go. You have to use DJI Fly. And DJI Fly doesn't have waypoints outside of hyperlapse mode. So in a sense, like if you have a Mavic Mini or the Air 2, you could actually fly waypoints, which you would have otherwise not been able to. In the context of these bigger drones that already have some waypoint capability, I think it's just more flexibility. Ultimately, Dronelink can get very complicated as you go deeper and deeper into configuring a mission. But I think it's just allowing someone more control and more fine-tuned adjustments of what they want the drone to do.
And as you said, there's a lot you can do with it. You mentioned something a minute ago, and I want to go back to it because I don't know if everybody's actually seen this, but you talked about being able to pre-visualize a flight. So explain that in really, down to earth terms. When you say
Yeah.
I've seen this before, and it's really cool. So if you could explain what you're talking about, I think the audience would like it.
Yeah, so built into Dronelink is like a 3D mission previewer. So you have the ability to export to Google Earth and play your mission back in there, but the one that's built into the web application and also available in the mobile app is you have a sort of this like Premiere or video editing kind of look and feel to this user interface where you
Like a
have
timeline.
the yeah, like you have a timeline on the bottom showing details. Then you have on the top, left, you have the mission plan with like a little drone on it. And you hit play and you can change this playback speed. And then you have a video previewer of the drone using Esri data in the background to sort of present what the field of view looks like. And so you could sort of plan your mission, hit play, it'll generate this preview, and then you could see, the altitude change, what the camera actions are, how many batteries it'll take for the full
And
mission to
you can
execute.
scrub through this thing just like a timeline in an editor, right?
Yeah, so you could scrub through it or hit play at like 1x, 2x, or 4x speed and just preview the mission before you go out into the field. So a combination of that and even exporting to, Google Earth to get, different 3D terrain data, you sort of could really do a lot of the work ahead of time before arriving in the field and then figuring out that mission sucked or you had to go re-edit a lot of it.
Well, and I know you guys are working on putting together or allowing people to create missions into a repository, right? So they can actually save, like, let's say you went to Moab and you're not in the national park, you're outside of the park, so you can
Yeah.
fly, but you have a cool shot that maybe has the park in the background or a really cool sunset and there's some nice features like a cliff and some cactus or something. I don't know. But my point is you could save that, you could create that mission, save it to the repository, and then anybody with Dronelink who goes to Moab could literally go out and run that mission. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that's some of the coolest, features is this whole like collaboration of missions that you could have, or you could access all the public missions, right? So there's an opportunity for users to, make private missions and repositories. And I know repositories, I guess, a confusing word. So let me just pause and explain that. It's basically a folder with permissions. So that's what a repository is. And so you could have a public repository, access any public repositories. There's missions that have been run, around the world, and you could take those missions, not only run them at the location, but you could preview the mission, copy it to your location into your account, edit it and tweak it to make it look the way you want. So that's definitely something been working on, is try to foster that community aspect of being able to run these missions and use the best of the best out there to tweak and dial in these missions and start meshing them into your own. So I
You
think
know,
that's super
I just
cool.
had an idea for you guys, and maybe you're already doing this, but you talked about the repository, which is, like you said, basically a folder. So if you're a subscriber to Dronelink, you can access these repositories and see different missions. So let's say I go down to Galveston, right, which is the beach down near Houston,
Yep.
and I go down there, and there's a mission that I want to fly, and I find that mission. It would be really cool if in that same folder or linked in there somehow in the metadata was a link to the actual video that was taken by the drone of the original, creator of the mission. So you could not only see the pre-visualization and the data, but you could also like click and look at and say, and maybe that's a kind of thing where if you gamified it, people can upload a mission, but then they can also upload the actual video of that mission
Yeah.
so that people could watch both. Just an idea.
I love it. I love it. I know, Lychee has, their mission hub, and you could go look there, and they do have, I think, have the little YouTube icons on some of them. I definitely
Nice.
want us to go down that path too. There's actually like a web page that we're starting that's sort of still not shown on the website, but it is launched. It's dronelink.com/explore-missions.
Okay.
And that sort of URL is where we're starting to play with this concept and want to feature more community type content there. Um, and that web page is somewhat the same concept, right? Where we have, it's funny that you mentioned this. We have on the left, the mission plan, and then on the right, sort of a small edit of the footage that was generated. That I think being able to attach, the full mission would be cool, but at the same time, no one wants to watch necessarily a full, 15-minute video.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of
but you could
depends on.
scrub through it. So I've speed ramped some of them that we posted on there, so you could just see, oh, it moved from there to there. But yeah, having that concept and seeing the footage that these missions generates really connects a user to visualize what the lines on the mission plan screen look like and what it'll look like in real life, and then how that compares to the preview.
So Jerry Bauer, who I believe is a fellow Canadian from Ottawa, said
Perfect.
asked the question in the chat if using DroneLink voids your DJI warranty.
No, it doesn't. I don't think any automated flight apps have that problem. I think you ultimately have the ability to take control over the drone at any point, and it's sort of, so it doesn't void the warranty. And we've had a lot of experience flying autonomous missions, and if you have, it really just depends on the root cause, I think, of the failure, but it doesn't void the warranty or even being able to, uh, take part in the DJI Care program. But really, it's up to you to, still have line of sight of the drone and follow all the rules.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's probably the warranty thing is probably more of a hardware thing. Like if you used an aftermarket battery or something like that,
Yeah.
that's where I think you're going to run into trouble. But if you think about these automated missions that you guys are flying, so much of so many of the drones today, and now with the new Air 2S that just came out, there's so much obstacle avoidance and all those kind of things built into them. Oh, my dog says hello. The, do those things are they still active when you're flying an automated mission? So basically, it's not going to hit anything that it would hit if you were using DJI Fly, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, so it has, unless you've turned off your collision avoidance sensors in DJI Go or Fly, we sort of use those settings, right? And within DroneLink missions, you could specify very specific drone commands like turn on collision avoidance if it was off. So you could plan your missions to that level of safety and make sure you set all the camera and drone settings the way you want, like even your return to home altitude. But if those aren't set, we just take the ones that are set in the DJI app. So whatever's already configured on your drone, even camera setting wise, we'll use that. And then all of those will work the exact same way.
I think I've got most of my obstacle avoidance turned off most of the time, just because
Yeah.
I get so annoyed by it, particularly um, the some of them like the Evo 2 Pro, man, the obstacle avoidance on that thing is just like anybody gets anywhere near the thing, it's like hold on. Um, Speaking of which, what I know you support more than just DJI. You said you support the Anafi. You're planning to support the Anafi too. What lineup of drones are you guys currently supporting?
So right now it's again the DJI, the stack of DJI drones, right? So you have, I think that it's important to note that we still don't support the DJI Mini 2, and we're waiting on DJI's SDK update, like everyone else. And then same with the Air 2S that just got released. Both those drones will require, us to get, an SDK update from DJI, but the rest of the DJI drones we support. The Parrot Anafi currently is being, it's in development, so that should be coming out soon. But really, the Anafi 2 is the drone that we want because, from testing, it's the better one. And then eventually, we're gonna move to, we've had Autel Evo requests, so hopefully we could move to those. But right now, the main stacks, most of the DJI drones.
Okay, okay, and you guys, I mean, basically, like you were saying with the Mini 2, for example, and I'm sure the Air 2S, as the
Mhm.
SDKs come out, you'll start to develop for them.
Oh,
It's
we
just
want those so bad. We get so many questions, and it's really just stifling business, really, for ours.
yeah, yeah, because a
There's
lot
so
of
many of
people
those drones out there, and we really want to support those because both those drones can't do mapping or waypoints, really.
because they
So,
use the Fly app, they don't use
yeah.
DJI Go 4. Yeah, and that's really, you know, just for the audience, I'll give my opinion here. I think that is one of the downfalls of the Fly app. Is I think the Fly app is really designed for simplicity and for a less sophisticated drone pilot. And so if they have this amazing hardware in the Mini 2 and in the Air 2S, but then it's a little bit. Although I will say there are some cool things in the Fly app. I'm not a hater on it, but there's so many things like you said that you can't do with it that you could do with Dronelink. Now, you had also mentioned about you do support the Parrot currently, or you're in beta with
Not
that.
currently, not currently.
Okay.
It's still like in beta.
Do you think the Parrot? I mean, when do you? I don't know. I had a Parrot actually. Yeah, no, I had the Anafi. I actually gave it away at Spin Up at my drone event, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
liked it. It was a cool little drone. I I I I thought it was a little bit. It felt a little cheaply made. It kind of
Oh
felt
yeah.
a lot more like a toy than
That's
the. My, I have a window right in front of me, and my wife just walked up and looked in at me, like, "What are you doing?" Do you know much about the Anafi too? I mean, is it going to be a little more industrial grade, or what do you think?
I don't know enough there. Like I was involved in testing sort of our stuff with the Anafi and the Anafi thermal. But again, yeah, like you said, it felt sort of cheap, and the
Yeah.
next version is just far better. But from a hardware's perspective, I don't know too much. We've been sort of waiting and waiting on sort of the SDK that'll enable us to do a lot more with that than the Anafi.
Do companies ever give you those SDKs ahead of time, or do you get them kind of when everybody else gets them?
So DJI doesn't give them to ahead of time, and the other companies we are early, in communication with the leadership in those teams, and they do give us sort of early access, or beta access, and Jim's quick to dive in and give them feedback. He's got so much experience with these, so we do definitely get some early access, but unfortunately DJI doesn't give us special treatment yet.
Now, what about Skydio? Have you guys had any experience
We've
with
reached
Skydio?
we've reached out. We have a Skydio. It's fun. It's a great drone.
It really is.
But we don't. Again, I think they're pretty busy, and we definitely hope to add that drone into the mix and take advantage of even all the onboard compute that they do.
I was gonna
I
say
think
it
that
feels like you could
combination
do
would
some
be
awesome stuff
super
with it.
interesting.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, right now there's no early access coming our way, but we're hoping that that'll change as they ramp up production of those drones and build their team out more. Obviously, they're doing well, getting funding, so it's exciting, and we
Yeah.
definitely hope to work with them.
Um, Texas architecture drone guy, aka Michael Wright, said he's used drone links a few times in the past 2 years, and he follows a couple of YouTube sites devoted to using modes in drone link. Now, Michael, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I do think that one of the perceptions. Now, I've known of drone link for coming up on 2 years now. Very much want to see you guys successful. I think what you're doing, especially bringing automated flight to the masses, to anyone who wants to sign up as a fairly inexpensive subscription, is pretty awesome. But my perception when I was first kind of working with some of the early tutorials and such was, oh my God, this is really complicated and my brain's going to explode. And
Yeah,
not like I couldn't sit down and figure it out, but it was just like a little bit overwhelming. And I know you guys are working on kind of simplifying the first steps, right? I mean,
yeah,
much like FPV is for people, right? When people first get into FPV, they're like, well, I got to learn beta flight and I got to learn, BL heli and PIDs and blah, blah, blah. And, it's just, but, but, but you know what I mean? And so you
yeah.
guys,
Oh, no doubt. It's
uh,
been definitely heard from the community. We are active on all these like forums, and uh, that's huge feedback, right? Coming back to Dronelink, like, hey, it's too complicated. Let's get some easier tutorials on how to get started, and that's definitely a thing I've been trying to work on, and hopefully it's getting better and better. There's definitely UI, user experience kind of improvements that we could do in the product, but at the same time, it's just simply guiding people on the journey to learn, from building this foundation of simple, like, hey, just create, run a mission that's generated by the drone, in the field using only the app.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
then move from that to actually creating like a path mission with some waypoints and markers so you could control the drone, to the simplest, I think, is just copying missions into your account from someone else. So there's a new sort of quick start series that I've been working on to sort of help address sort of this onboarding problem. And I think it's really simple if you get started with on the right foot in this journey to learn Dronelink. The YouTube videos, the feedback is, there's a ton of content there, but it's hard to sort of filter through videos and get back to the location that you wanted that piece of data. So we're actively having to build out, more of a knowledge base. The closest thing to a knowledge base is really a lot of Jim's responses directly to people in the community. And so that's like has a decent search where you can search all these questions that have been asked. But that said, we still want to bring people into this sort of build your knowledge in Dronelink before you get overwhelmed by the complexity that you could go into. From there's just crazy levels of complexity, sort of to the level of like the flight controller and how fast we're rotating. And that's, I think, where
yeah.
people like eyes glaze over and like, oh, this is it, I'm done. We want to get people to like fly as soon as possible and have like a good first user experience, and then sort of go from there, and then build their build to whatever they're trying to accomplish. And maybe they just stop at copying missions into their account that looked good, and they're excited to run without having to fly it manually, or create it from scratch.
Well, and that's the thing. Full disclosure, I say full disclosure. The my experience with DroneLink, I have created a mission and I have flown a mission with the Mavic Mini, and it actually worked perfectly. It was probably back in November timeframe or so. I started playing with DroneLink. Took the Mavic Mini out to Canyon Vista, the middle school where I go fly
Yep.
sometimes. Had created the mission at home, and I was a little bit worried because the Mavic Mini doesn't have all the sensors that other drones have. So I wanted to make sure it was something that was in an open enough area that I wouldn't hit anything. So I had it go out into the middle of the field. If Sunrise Water Media is in the chat still, he'll know what I'm talking about. The Red Devils flew over the Red Devils. They're these metal structures that I fly through, and they often reach out and knock my drone as I fly through them. They're very mean. But
I've
flew
seen
over.
them in the
You've seen them. So I've flown over
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Red Devils and did a circle and went up and went out over the football field and just did this whole thing. And it did it. I did it 2 or 3 times and it did it perfectly. It was that's the thing. And are you familiar with the master shots on the new drone?
yep,
So that's kind of why master shots are the exact reason why you want to use something like Dronelink, because it automates these super smooth. I mean, as humans, we can't have that same kind of fluidity and smoothness and exact precision and consistency that a machine has. As far as doing the same thing over and over again, doing it really well, flying to the exact same positions. And so, I think that's what DJI is trying to do with master shots, is allow people to kind of do all of, in a row. You can do all of the quick shots and then edit them together. But
yeah.
Dronelink allows you to create your own master shot. You're going in and saying, okay, instead of just following this prescribed thing, I want to do this kind of droney shot, and then I want to spin around and do, you create it yourself, and then you can
Hmm.
share it with other people. Which I think is awesome.
Yeah. No, you're on point, right? I think like DJI is also going down that path, right? They're realizing that, well, they're touching so much of these drone users, so many new people in the market with the with these cheaper options that are incredible drones, and people just don't know how. Like, I think often happens with most drone users, they buy or get a drone, they play with it a little bit, and then they realize they sort of need to practice to get better at it, and so they're trying to get more users, I think, hooked to creating good content. And master shots is definitely an approach that way. It's like, hey, don't just press these buttons, and we'll get something that looks great, and we'll even edit it for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
I
we'll
think
add
that's
some really
brilliant. We
terrible
don't
music
do the
to it.
editing. Yeah, exactly. I never really got. I like video editing and cutting to beat drops and making something exciting to watch. And I don't think the AI is that good at editing videos just yet, but it's got to start and keep improving.
So actually, that leads to a really interesting question. Could you ever see a day where you could do an automated flight similar to the right up my alley or right up your alley, the bowling ball FPV thing that came out a few weeks ago, or any of those? Because so many people now are starting to do these one take FPV shots through all these tiny gaps, with people and
Yeah.
choreography. And I mean, it's like, what was the guy's name? You're way too young for this, and so am I actually. But I think it was Busby Berkeley. Busby, somebody knows it. It was a guy who did these very very elaborate dance things where the camera would, like, all the there were rows of like Rockettes, girls dancing, and they would
Yeah.
all kick their leg up, and the camera would go under each leg as they kicked it up, and around in a circle. And I mean, that's kind of what people are doing with FPV drones now, only, to showcase a bowling alley or whatever. Do you ever think that, do you ever think we'll get to the point where you could program it to that precision, indoors, to do that kind of flying? Of course we will, but how long,
Yeah, right. I think a lot of that kind of automation will be this like hybrid between sort of this goal that the drone has to, like, hey, fly this waypoint mission, but then taking advantage of like all the sense and avoid capabilities to
And maybe
do
some
the
AI
fine
too.
tuning, because GPS like is not going to do that level of accuracy that you need for that level of precision. So you need this sort of combination. We'd love to support, and start playing around with the DJI FPV drone, and assuming that gets an SDK, start pre-programming advanced missions. I would love to see us be able
where you
to do,
can where you can
a
flip
full
and
flip
dive
with,
and
yeah, like a true roller coaster in the sky would be amazing to achieve, and hopefully we get to see that happen.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think you could definitely do that to some extent with what exists today, but not going, underneath the, things where you have worse GPS coverage or trying to shoot gaps. That's going to be pretty tough to do without, I think you could do it, and some of this collision avoidance will, route around or through it, but definitely something we're not doing a lot of testing on.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really, I think part of what makes those things so appealing to people is the skill that it takes for a human to do that, right? I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's like when the machines can do that, then what's the point? We might as well just all go jump in the ocean because it's over. Game over, man. Game over. Um, well, let's see, Jacob. Let's see if we can take a few calls from the audience. As you guys know, this is an old-timey radio program where we take calls. Now, there's a thing called a telephone for those of you youngsters. You pick it up, and usually there's a little wheel. And you turn it, and you turn these numbers 256-540-8245, and you. And then you call in. So let's see if anybody will call in and ask a question of Jacob about flight automation, about kiteboarding, about Canada. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many
Let's
things
hear
this
him.
guy knows about. About. So, what kind of trailer are you in, by the way?
Oh, I'm in a A-frame camper. So it's a
Okay.
camper I bought last year. It's like a pop-up camper, but it doesn't pop up with fabric. It has these, walls that unfold, and it looks sort of like a land sailboat. It's got
And
this sort of triangular shape and like a higher roof, and then that all folds down into a box that you could tow. And it's just way more manageable to tow
and
around. And
how many drones do you have with you on your trip?
I only have two drones right now.
Only two. Okay. Okay. That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good. Which
yeah.
two
I
which two
went through
drones
a
do you have?
minimizing effort. I have a Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2.
Okay. Yeah, those are
I
those
was
are
gonna do the Phantom 4 Pro to test more inspection kind of work that we're doing. It's just a good aircraft, but decided to leave that to some of the team while I'm out here and
yeah. It's
doing
just
more
a
fun
big.
content.
It's a it's a
Yeah,
bigger commitment to bring a Phantom of any sort.
yeah.
And if if you only could have, I guess you've narrowed it down to two. But if you could only have one drone to fly for the next year, what would it be?
That's still the Mavic 2 Pro. Um, I haven't tried the Air 2S yet, but I do like the extra weight that the Mavic 2 Pro has for sort of stability, and the camera's just still produces a really great image. Right now,
Oh
that's I
yeah,
think it. Other than the Skydio 2 for like trying to play with action sports and stuff, but it's not related to some of it'd be more just for fun to see how it performs in certain crazy environments like
and
backcountry skiing or trying to go through, forest chasing someone mountain biking.
well,
But that,
and Skydio really, I mean, it really is about flight automation. I've got one, and I'll say that where it shines is when it is chasing you with a beacon
oh yeah.
or but flying it itself, it's not quite the experience of flying a more precise camera drone. So
Hmm.
there you go.
Yeah, so I think it's still the Mavic 2 Pro. Like it just, I love that drone. It's a fun, right form factor, good camera, and slightly heavier, which I do, you do notice some of these differences in flying, like the weight differences. I don't mind carrying that extra weight to get sort of a little more
Yeah, yeah.
weight behind the drone moving in the air.
Versus like a Mini or an Air 2.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think those are still the drones, but it's exciting. I can't wait to see what they do next. Like
Is
the
is
FPV drone's fun, but I still like doing the videography side of it a little more.
and I will say that for the DJI FPV drone, it is a good. Have you flown one?
Yep.
It is a good crossover to I mean, because it does have a one axis gimbal, because it does have electronic stabilization. You can do some pretty cool cinematic stuff with it, but you're really, I think the purpose of that drone really is just to learn how to fly an acro, to take those
Yeah.
baby steps and get to where you can fly
Oh, the
pretty.
brake feature, they just nailed it on that.
Oh yeah, seriously, it stops so abruptly,
Yeah.
and it doesn't do. I've noticed, like with the Mavic series, when you stop, it does this kind of skid in the air. It takes it a
Yeah.
second or two. And like with an Evo, man, that thing, if you try to stop it suddenly, it really needs some. It's like a
Uh,
C-47 plane. It
Oh
needs a
yeah, that
long
thing is
runway.
all weight. Yeah, and the amount of like you could when you hit brake on the DJI FPV drone, like you see the battery drop like right when you do it. Like
Yeah.
it pulls so much current through there that to just slow it down, like on a dime. It's impressive.
Well, I'm really surprised nobody's calling. Look, guys, if you can't figure out how the phone works, ask Chris Hope. He's old enough. He knows what's going on with it. Chris Hope, can you tutorialize these guys how a phone works so we can get somebody to call in? Well, the other big thing then, Jacob, while we're waiting for a call is if someone wanted to like what is a membership or subscription to Dronelink look like? What's the process of signing up and such?
Yeah, so the simplest way is to just take a look at our plans on our pricing page online. But your starting point's the basic plan, and it's $25, and then you go from there. And we did do a pricing update recently, but yeah, you just get started there. You upgrade to premium if you want more features, to elite, and then from there we have more business plans that are oriented for commercial applications.
And
So
and
the
it's
starting
really
points get like a
no risk, right? I mean, for the $25 plan, you can cancel if you're not using it or not into it.
yeah, like we do give people refunds, that you could request one.
Well, I don't mean a
Those
refund.
sort of
I
like a
just mean
one-time payment.
I just mean it's not like something you're locked into forever.
No, so well, it's actually they're not subscriptions, so it's a one-time payment for the hobbyist plans. So you
Oh,
just pay
okay.
one time $25, you get access to
Oh,
that plan for life.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
and then premium and elite, so you could experience like a lot of advanced features within those three packages. And then from there, the subscription is really for the business users. So we're still, there's more features in there like the inspection component and things for really cool applications. Like we're working with visual effects studios
Okay.
to recreate the world as best as possible for movies.
Well,
And so they're
the
the
the the,
super advanced applications that we don't need to go into.
the one-time $25 thing was news to me. I didn't know about that. So actually, we have a call, so we're going to jump in and see who we've got on the line. I'm going to guess. I have a theory. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Whoa, hey Kelly, how's it going?
It's going well. Who's this?
It's Phil. I felt
Oh,
bad. You were begging for someone to call in, so I
well,
called in for you.
Jacob, can you hear Phil?
Yeah, it's
Cool,
perfect.
cool. Well,
Look
Phil,
at this
Phil,
phone
Phil is
technology
often
working.
he's a longtime supporter and guest on this show. Sometimes even co-host on this on our First Friday shows. But Phil is also a heavy duty programming, computer hardware and software kind of guy. So, Phil, do you have a good question lined up for us? And I do appreciate the call.
Uh, Not really. Like I know all about how the automation stuff works and how it integrates with the SDK. Um, I don't really have any good questions. I just felt really bad for you, so I wanted to call in and say hi.
Man, that's what where. So and by the way, Phil lives in a he lives in a RV currently. So he's kind of doing your thing. Where are you
No way,
currently?
we're at.
I'm in Tucumcari, New Mexico right now. We're on our way east. Tomorrow we'll be going to Elk City, Oklahoma, and then over to Memphis eventually. And then we got plans
Oh
to
wow,
go basically all over the East Coast again.
Yeah,
awesome.
they're in a very large fifth wheel kind of thing that goes on the back of the truck
Yep,
and has
those are proper.
yeah, very very proper. But you have to also Phil has a pretty hefty truck, a dually, right? Don't you have a dually?
Yeah, it's a 350 dually.
Yeah, it
So
it
You
pulls
need
a
one
big
of
one.
those for those fifth wheels. It's like pulling around a home. It's so great.
Well, I do
yeah,
think Phil will be on. You're going to be on First Friday in 2 weeks, right?
I will, and I'll have a DJI Air S2 by then,
Nice,
as well as a smart controller.
very cool. Yeah, and actually, that's one thing I've really been wanting to test out. I'm curious if anybody in the chat knows about this, or Jacob, have you seen this? I've heard some people saying that the app running on your phone, the current version of the Fly app using the Air 2S, works better on a phone from a latency, video latency, and OcuSync 3 perspective, because I believe that the smart controller uses OcuSync 2, but they've done some magic to make it work with OcuSync 3.
Interesting.
Anyway,
well, yeah,
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
have
know
to
too
test
much
that.
about that one, but I know like the smart controllers they don't have like as much processing power as these latest mobile devices, so that could be part of it.
yeah, it's
So
it's about the screen. It's all about the screen
here's
with
a
that.
good question for you related to a smart controller, because I haven't touched one in years. But originally you couldn't run stuff like Glitchy on it, and your app as well, Dronelink. So is that possible now?
You can load it on there, but we again don't recommend the smart controller because of the performance. And I think a big part of it has to do with the performance of those devices and the way our technology works. So as opposed to like a comment you sort of mentioned earlier about sort of the SDK, like how we're communicating with these drones, we don't use what DJI in DJI's world is the mission class, where you sort of upload waypoints to the drone and the drone's really running these waypoints. We use virtual stick, which is like the device itself is the flight controller, and it's acting
Yeah.
as if it's a pilot, giving telemetry to the drone real time to adjust its course. And so because we have implemented that way, there's sort of more computing required on the actual mobile device, because that's the flight engine flying the drone, and that's what lets us support the Mini and the Air 2, is because we've implemented it that way, and that does allow us to do sort of a lot of more interesting advanced stuff like real time move emissions, like reference point, or adjust its altitude, because we're not throwing waypoints up onto the drone. We're sort of real time doing that. So the smart controller, you can load it. You can check out the forum. There's a lot of people that are loading, Dronelink onto the smart controller, but again, it's like not the best user experience due to the performance of those devices.
Yeah, and I had some similar concerns when I was messing with it before, but I get so tired of using my phone. I'm like, taking out the case and putting in the holder and all that mess. It's just easier to use something all in one. So I'm looking forward to having the smart controller again. And since you don't use the mission controller, that means that if you lose connection to the drone, then the mission won't continue, right? So if you use the mission controller, the mission will continue and it will come home. So what does happen if you lose connection?
It does trigger the return to home sequence, right? So if your controller loses connection with the drone, your mission will be interrupted. You'll see a prompt on the screen. You'll still have, video feedback potentially, but we stop control over the drone if there's not enough of a good connection, and then it'll just enter into return to home.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, honestly, it's been so long since I've used anything like this that I have questions about it. So forgive my dumb questions.
Well,
no, there's no dumb questions. No doubt.
I agree with you, Phil, about the smart controller generally, and actually Ben T said a moment ago that he's been using the smart controller and the regular Fly app with the new Air 2S, and doesn't feel like the latency is enough of an issue to worry about. That was kind of what I got from Original Dobo's channel too, was that yeah, there's some latency, especially when it's really far away, but if you're flying close, it's almost negligible, but yeah, it's just that whole thing of having to tie up your phone to do this, number one, and number two, tie up your phone to do this. It just seems really arcane for basic stuff. But to your point, I hadn't really thought about that, Jacob. Is that your phone's got a modern phone has a lot more processing power now than it did 2 years ago or 3 years ago when the smart controller came out. And so that makes a lot of sense. It just that's part of how they keep the cost down on these things too, is by putting a lot of that processing power into the phones. Well, Phil, I appreciate the sympathy call, as people are calling it. It's what a good friend does, and I really appreciate that, Phil.
Yeah, no problem. I'll let you go and let someone else talk to you.
Okay, man. Talk to you later.
No, I saw some questions here in the chat. What we got here, the device that you need to run Dronelink. Yeah, so we have on the website you could hit like the system requirements and get a full list. And you could use an iPad. There's just certain generations that get, the processing power becomes a little low to have a pretty good user experience. So there's a list of the devices there. You could use iOS devices, iPads, iPhones, and Android devices as well.
And we do have another caller, so we'll go ahead and take that call.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see who this is. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who are we talking to?
Hey, man, it's Chris.
Hey, Chris Hope, the man. See, look, he proved he can use a phone. He's showing everybody by demonstrating how to use a phone. Chris, did you use your rotary phone or your touchtone?
Yes, the party line.
The party line, yes.
Those?
Yeah, with the little. I actually am not that old, Chris, but I've heard of them. Where it's like
had to wait for the neighbor to get off.
Right. I need to dial Woodsaw 123. Woodsaw 123, please. So
Exactly.
Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Is this Jake from Dronelink?
It is.
Yep.
I got you.
How you doing?
Jake from State Farm.
I'm good, man. Hey, I'll make this quick, dude. I fly the Phantom 4 and run the Go app on my iPad. Will your little tool run with that?
Yeah, you'll be good.
It's not an issue.
Check the iPad specs. I think check the system requirements link or we have just on the main website on the top banner you could hit what the device capabilities are, and you could see what iPad device like you have, like a certain generation of them, past that point it starts not running as well because of the performance of the device.
Yeah.
But you should be fine with most of them.
Well, cool, man. That's good.
And since Apple just released a whole bunch of new ones, Chris, you can probably pick up a used one pretty cheap. Every time they come out, just go on and buy one generation back and you'll be all set.
Yeah, like the mini one that they just released for like $320 or something. Is crazy good processing power and pretty reasonable price point for that device.
Cool deal, man. Well, that was my question. I was wondering if it worked with the older stuff.
Well, the Phantom 4, it's the original Phantom 4, right?
Right.
Or Phantom 4 Pro, not the V2.
No, it's just the Phantom.
Yeah, the Phantom 4 should work. Yeah, the Advanced, the Pro V2, they're all in there.
Cool.
Yeah, actually, Chris, it's funny where Jacob was talking about his office being. If you remember when we came to Spin Up, when you were down here, actually, I think you've been there a couple times. It's that their office was right by that 360 bridge. So I took Chris to fly.
Oh, yeah.
Jacob, how right on the other side there's that little park that where the boat ramp is and stuff.
Yep.
I took Chris and some other folks over just to fly on that side one morning early on a Saturday morning, and it was awesome.
Oh, that's an incredible that field there, and I think the 360 bridge and having I think the Austin meetup group's still meeting there. I've seen they've kicked that back up and running.
Yeah.
Carlos Austin's one of the guys running it. So
Yep.
I saw them meeting up again, and it's exciting. It's I think at the same location, which used to be the old hangar office.
Yep. Well, Chris, thank you for the call. I appreciate it, man, and I'll look forward to speaking with you in a week or so. I know for everyone who doesn't normally watch First Friday, which will be, it's actually kind of weird because I think next Friday is the 30th, so First Friday won't be till the 7th. But Chris Hope usually puts together an awesome video for that using a variety of different drones, and so it's always worth checking out. So thanks, Chris. Good talking to you, man.
You bet. Take care of y'all. Thank you.
Okay.
Jake.
Later. All right. Well, Jacob, so you mentioned again the $25 for getting the basic package, which is awesome, and then you can advance from there. I really will. I know Jacob's been on me for a little while about going out and doing more with Dronelink, and I want to, as I told you before, with the Air 2S coming out, that was taking up a lot of my YouTube time or drone time. But now that's out, I don't have anything. I'm not on the hook for any any videos other than ones I want to make anytime soon. So I will go play with it some more. And I love the fact that you are so accessible to answer questions. I did see somebody earlier, I think it was Rohit, said basically that, going to your website, it's hard to tell what you guys do. And so I think we and Rohit, if you just joined, I think we addressed that earlier. It's definitely something they're working on, is kind of simplifying the starting point for using Dronelink and helping people get started a little bit earlier with it and easier with it, not having to um, go into so much detail for the basic stuff. But that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start by doing some just cool missions around the school, around my office, maybe around my house, just some stuff that I can get consistent with. And then, as I said, I have an opportunity to potentially fly a progress build on an expansion on, it's actually St. David's North Austin Medical Center, which I'm sure if you lived in Austin,
Awesome.
you know where that
Yep.
is. Yeah. We do a lot of work for St. David's, and they are going to start building onto their um, where they give, what is it called, where they have babies, natal. I don't know what it's called, but I should probably know that.
Yeah.
But I'm hopefully going to get to do some of the flying around there and
Yeah,
progress
that's
that.
definitely, I think that's one of the, that was definitely one of the main things that, flight automation was, great for. It's like, hey, you set up your mission once, you hit play, it does, it repeats that same flight over and over again. You don't have to position the drone manually. And that's just an incredible use case of automation and drones. And that was obviously a huge part of what we were doing at Hangar, doing job sites and construction monitoring,
Yeah,
flying sites weekly, whether it's, doing a video orbit. Generally, we stayed away from that as much as doing a series of
stills.
images around the
Yeah.
boundary and orthomosaic and some 360 photos. So it just depends on, the processing. And, we do have a integration with Pix4D that people, if, are wanting to do to point clouds and 3D models, then you could plug in your Pix4D account and sort of have that as a better workflow. But I think progress photos and automating that, there's a function actually, and probably worth talking about. We have these mission generators that can generate a mission on the fly. And so they're called on the fly functions in the tool. And there's a little lightning bolt in the app. And in that lightning bolt, you have some of the modes, like we have follow mode and focus mode. But then you also have other ones where you could, create a path based off marking a few waypoints with your drone and deciding what to focus on, whether it's going to use the focus when you mark the waypoint or if you want to set like a point of interest. So we have another one for, it's called job site for construction projects. So you can sort of mark the boundary of your project. It'll auto generate an ortho and an orbit around that to
Wow.
do images. So it'll auto generate these missions based off steps you get asked in the app. So the more complicated the thing is, the more steps and more elaborate of a mission will generate. And so there's some basic ones like follow. And then there's more advanced ones like, path is a really good entry, simple point that's sort of in this quick start series we're working on. But there's ones where you can map, mark different locations for cardinal photos or the boundaries of a location for a map. So there's some different functions you could just generate missions on the fly with.
Well, and they're talking about this construction project taking 2.5 years, and so it's going to be, and they want, I think, twice a month, or every 2 weeks or so.
Yep.
They want photos done. So is that a good time frame? Is that your experience with those kind of things?
Yep.
About every 2 weeks.
Yeah, like we often would do weekly or every 2 weeks. So those sometimes we get, depending on certain sections, you could actually get, more frequent scans, like before they when they're laying rebar and before they put concrete over it. That's like a great point to do like a, more than one time a week kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And so we have so much experience, and being able to plan that mission, run it, a few times, tweak it, and then deliver to the client, and then that's what they get from that point forward. And then you sort of have to worry about the data delivery side, how you want to deliver that. We don't do any of that anymore in Dronelink, but we had, obviously these viewers in the Hangar world.
Well, and that part, for a job like this, that would be fairly straightforward. I'm dealing with, I'm working with fairly non-technical people. It's more of a marketing kind of thing for them.
Okay,
So,
awesome.
but Jacob, man, thank you. This has been really great. I appreciate you taking time out from your epic trip. Where are you going after Moab?
So I'm gonna actually go back to Austin for just like a week or so, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna move on. I think to the Pacific Northwest, at least to go there in the summertime.
Yeah.
Hood River, Oregon's my spot. It's a popular kiteboarding destination, one of the windiest
Nice.
places here in the U.S. in the Columbia Gorge River. So did a good number of weeks there last summer, and gonna try to spend some more summer there.
Sweet. Well,
So
and
Oregon and that coast there is amazing.
kiteboarding requires wind, drone flying not so much, but you can meld the two together, and that's the thing.
It
I
works
mean,
so well for a kiteboarder. You don't want to go fly your drone when it's 30 knots.
right. So you go kiteboarding, and then
Uh,
if it's not windy enough, you go fly your drone. It's all good.
exactly.
Well, again, everybody, if you're interested, go check out Dronelink. I will definitely hound Jim and Jacob to maybe do some giveaways in the future for some free memberships, maybe down the line, something we could talk about. But for now, really just wanted people to get familiar with it. And for me, again, I think the value is really going to be in these repeatable things that I want to do over and over. Getting on the really simple stuff, being able to do those moves, like you said, like a master shot, but make it my own master shot, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, see if I can go up into the higher stuff. But man, what a great conversation! Really enjoyed it. Thanks to everyone who joined tonight. Thank you for the super chats that came in, and we will check you guys out next Friday. I am still lining up a guest for next Friday, but then the following Friday will be First Friday. I do have progress on Spin Up for sure. I've got a location. I am working on a contract with them right now, and I should have that done by the next First Friday so that we can announce where and when it will be, who the sponsors will be, maybe even get some of the Dronelink folks to come out again and speak. Because Jim's speech last time was amazing. Everybody loved it.
Oh yeah, he's good one to have out.
Yeah.
I think definitely let us know. Keep us posted, and thanks for having me and the opportunity to chat. It's fun.
Yeah, no, this has been great. All right, guys. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Again, hopefully I will see you all next week. Jacob, thanks to you. And hey, Ben T with the $5 super chat for closing us out. What a good way to go. And Ben,
Thanks everyone for joining.
I hope I get to fly with you really soon. As a matter of fact, there's a really awesome spot that I've been flying with a group down near New Braunfels, Jacob. So if at some point we get a chance to go down there and fly, we will be able to fly together. 400 AGL, wait, has a question. So the account I just created, and it said I was the 100th person, and for that, the winner of a hobby subscription is not free. So, do you know about a contest going on or something? Or is he?
I don't know about. I don't think we have a promo like that going.
All right. Well, that could just be Mel pulling our legs, but I'll check in with him afterward.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely let us know if there's an issue.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. You guys have a great evening, and we will see you next time. Fly safe, fly legal, and stay fly.
Take care.